Hello everyone and welcome back to the Truth Channel. In today's topic, we will answer questions related to the Tree of Life and the Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil. These two trees are spoken of in the first book of the Bible called Genesis. There have been many stories about these two trees, but today, we will answer as much questions in order for us to have a clear understanding of these two trees. Question number 1. Is it necessary to talk about this topic? Yes, talking about this subject is very important because of the following. Once we know what the trees in the garden were, we will understand what the original sin in the Garden of Eden was. We will understand what Adam and Eve lost in the Garden of Eden. We will also understand how every human being born after the sin of Adam and Eve has been affected by the original sin, and we will know the way back to what we lost in the garden. Question number 2. Were the two trees regular trees? Did they come out of the ground? No, these two peculiar trees were not trees that came out of the ground, yet it is recorded as if they did. In Genesis chapter 2 verse 9, 3 types of trees are spoken of. One type of trees was pleasant to the eyes, good for food, and grew out of the ground. The other two trees were simply in the midst of the garden. They were just present and did not come out of the ground. In the midst doesn't mean in the middle. It means that these two trees were involved in everything that went on around them. You can understand this from the many different scriptures like this one in Matthew chapter 18 verse 20, where Jesus says that where 2 or 3 are gathered together in His name, He will be in the midst of them. Here, Jesus meant to say that where 2 or 3 are gathered in His name, He is in agreement with them, or that His Spirit will operate through them. He did not mean to say that He will be in the middle of people gathering in His name. Most of the scriptures in the Bible that use the phrase in the midst never mean in the middle of. It always seems to mean in the presence of. In the same way, these two trees were not literally in the middle of the garden, and they were not physical trees. If they were trees that came out of the ground, they would still be existing today as trees coming out of the ground. Question number 3. If the Tree of Life and the Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil were not regular trees, what were they? A tree represents the symbol of something that brings forth fruit. So, these figurative trees are something, and their fruit is something else. What did Eve eat? She ate the fruit, she didn't eat the tree. The fruit was not an apple, an orange, a banana or any other fruit, and the tree of knowledge was not an apple tree. The tree of knowledge of good and evil was a tree that caused death of man to come into existence, same as the tree of life was a tree that caused man to live eternally. These two trees in the Garden of Eden were the two systems by which all things operated. The tree of life is always, and always has been the Word Himself, and the fruit of the Word is the revelation of Himself. In the book of John chapter 1, it says that in the beginning was the Word, and in the Word is eternal life. He, the Word, gives humans eternal life by giving to them His revelation. What was the revelation given to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden? In the Garden of Eden, God presented to Adam the two ways through which they could have children. The tree of life in Adam's day was God's will, and its fruit, also called the revelation of God's will, was that Adam had to have children through spiritual multiplication, the same way Jesus was conceived, without sex. The tree of knowledge of good and evil was the will of man, and its fruit was having children through sex, just like animals and plants. Living by our own will, our own word, and refusing to take God's revelation has always been the source of all our troubles. Question number 4. Did God trap Adam and Eve by giving them sexual organs? No, God did not trap them. If God trapped them, then it wasn't sin and God is not worthy of worship. God, being perfect in all his ways, wanted his son to have a choice, so he presented these two ways of having children. They had the option and ability to bring forth children by spoken word, or sexuality. They had to choose. Sex became a very dangerous thing, or, as bad as it is today because of the serpent, and his injection of a new bloodline that would bring in murder and corruption into humans. We will know more about the serpent, and his corruption of mankind in our next topic. Thank you once again for taking time to listen to the Truth Channel. Here is a summary of what we have learned today. The two trees in the Garden of Eden were not trees that came out of the ground. They were not regular trees, and they were not in the middle of the garden. The fruits of the trees were not bananas, apples, or any other fruits. The fruits were the two ways of conceiving children. The fruit of the tree of life was spiritual conception of children just like Jesus was conceived, and the fruit of the second tree was conception of children through sex just like animals and plants. In our next topic, we will talk about the serpent, and how he was used to destroy humanity. Stay blessed, everyone.